Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have an opportunity to work on a Roddy 810. It's a Japanese-made spin fishing reel, circa the late 1970s, early 1980s. It's one of a seemingly endless supply of older vintage reels that Scott has found at various Southern Californian flea markets. He's sent them to me to kind of give him an overhaul and hopefully give him out there, get him a second chance to go fishing again. Well, this one is very clean. It's nice. You can still read the anodized spool on it and the like. Very attractive reel. Very nice reel from the time. But this one is just sluggish. Seems to be a lot of these are old age kind of things where the grease dries and slows down the reel. Well, we're going to start by taking off the exterior pieces and parts to service this reel. And as we do, I want to encourage you all to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. Click that to make sure that you get the updates on when I'm posting to the channel. I post all kinds of fishing reel services and repairs and some additional information along the way. And I also post some shorts on the YouTube mobile app, and if you're interested in seeing those, well, the best way to do that is hit that notification button and you'll become aware of when those are posted and where and when. Alright, I take precautions. I wear a glove to protect the hand that doesn't do most of the work, and I also use a parts tray. This is the bottom of a fast food container. And like that screw that I just took off there, all of the pieces and parts go in that tray. So when it is time to reassemble the reel, well, I know where those pieces and parts are. So the Roddy is a very nice reel. Eventually, so Roddy was the last name of a fellow who was a rod manufacturer out in California. Eventually, he extended his line from just fishing rods to rods and reels. And ultimately, well, Penn acquired the company, and you saw some Roddy reels by Penn. Well, this is exactly what I was expecting to see inside of this reel. We have a traditional big gear, drives a little gear. That's the whole makeup of a high-speed reel. We have a crosswind block that holds the axle shaft on with a Phillips head screw. And the reason for the sluggish, well, that brown grease has kind of turned to putty, and it will slow the reel down. To get all the pieces and parts out for cleaning, we want to remove that Phillips head screw first, right into the parts tray. That'll enable us to pull up on the axle shaft. I'm going to set that on the table for a moment because that needs to be cleaned. We can remove this, which almost looks like some kind of Oreo cookie at the moment because of all of that stuff that's kind of squeezed out there. And we just want to scrape that old grease off. I'm going to pull it off the block, and I'm going to have it land on a paper towel. And the reason for that is that I don't want to transfer any of those old greases and that to my work surface, or at least to the best that I can. It gets on there. You can see this board's all knacked up already, and it hasn't been that long. But to the extent that you can keep the other contaminants from getting to the next reel that you work on, well, the better off you're going to be. Notice inside here, when I pulled that crosswind block off, that there is a little copper or bronze ring. It's on the end of this pick here. Do not lose that. That goes on to the stud on the main gear, and if you don't have it, you're going to get a little bit of excess free play on the performance of that. I'm just taking some penetrating oil now and spraying down that part just to dissolve that last part of the greases that I couldn't get off there to the best that I can. So much of rod and reel cleaning has to do with getting in those little nooks and crannies. I kind of use a cotton swab for that. And as the reel repair goes, almost all of the reel repair, or servicing at least, is making sure that your pieces and parts are clean, that they're inspected so that you know if there's any broken parts that need to be replaced, and that they are re-lubed and re-oiled and greased before you put them back together again. That will help improve the performance tremendously. All right, I want to go for a deep socket here to remove the rotor. The reason for that is, well, you can't get a wrench over that lip, right? It's just too hard to do to grab it without making that a problem. And this deep socket will enable you to get in there, break the nut, and then once I do that, I'd like to just take it off by hand the rest of the way. Should be able to remove this now, just simply pulling up. And this reel does not have any ball bearings in it that I can see. There may be one in there, but right now, just looking at it, it doesn't appear to be the case. We should be able then to push down or pull up. We've got the old infamous C-clip on the bottom here, right? Eventually, you remember the things that you discover at one point or another, and you need to remove this C-clip here on the bottom of the reel. Okay, well, that will come out, and then you can pull up on the pinion gear, slide out the bottom, and now you can push out the main gear. And if you can't grab it, just use a little screwdriver to assist. Check the inside of the case. Oops, that was an oops. This inside of the case is very clean. Scott tends to have improved his ball game lately. He's been buying better vintage reels over time. Initially, I think he just kind of got hung up in the euphoria of finding the old stuff. And then he found that, well, some of those are better than others. And I think he's done a good job of kind of limiting his searches and spend on the better quality, older stuff. But when you start, I like to think that, the thrill of the hunt is almost as important as the reel itself. And just finding an older one and taking it apart and learning from it often is invaluable. All right, I've just used a brush to clean out the channels of all of those main gear teeth. I want to make sure that they're all nice and clean, nothing stuck in them or anything of that description. That's the case. We'll clean off the back here. I'm going to use a fishing reel grease for this now. I use Penn Precision reel grease. I really don't care which grease you use as long as it's a fishing grease. Same thing with the oils. Make sure that the oils are designed for fishing reel use. If they're not, well, they may evaporate too quickly, they may dry out, they may cause issues downstream that, well, you just don't need. We've greased the back of the main gear and the teeth of the main gear. We're going to insert that back in. We're also going to put grease onto the face of the main gear because that's where the crosswind gear is going to travel. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom of this pinion gear, and we confirmed there's no ball bearings in this one. Does that make it a bad reel? Not at all. And by today's standards, it seems like if you don't have 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 ball bearings, something's wrong with the reel, or at least the manufacturers will allow you to think that. But overall, a solidly made reel with good bushings is just as good as a poorly made one with a lot of bearings, and we've seen both. All right, we've cleaned out the teeth. We're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to grease that up pretty well. So this one gets simplicity in design. I always enjoy seeing that. And if you can keep it simple, well, it's going to go a long way towards making it easier to run, and it's going to make it easier all around in terms of performance and dependability. All right, we've greased that up. We've set that underneath. You want to merge this piece into that gear, and there's a shoulder on that, so you have to push it through so that you can get that clip back on. And we'll make sure we have the clip into the pieces. This may be hard to see, but we're going to try and push that in with hand strength first. We almost got it. Well, if you don't have the hand strength, don't worry too much. Go ahead and grab a pliers or something. I use the needle nose pliers to just pull it in the rest of the way, just like that. When you hear that snap, well, you've got it done. And doesn't that look a whole lot easier and cleaner than it was before? Actually, just turning it by my fingers now tells me that we've come a long way from the beginning there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put the rotor back on now. The rotor is clean, as is the reel. We're going to make sure that we oil that trip lever there. While we've got the oil out, we can put a little bit of oil on the seam. You don't need to remove or play around with the bail unless the bail is not functioning. In that case, of course, you want to take it apart. There's the washer that goes on top of that pinion. And we'll grab that rotor. And now you have a key here. It's a rectangular shape that's going to fit over your pinion gear. And you're going to have to merge that with the stud that's on the cup. Just like that. When you do that, you can go ahead and grab your nut. You remember that you took that off in the traditional left-hand counterclockwise turn. And I like to thread these by hand so that I don't cross-strip them when I go to tighten it. Well, we're working on a fishing reel here. If you enjoy working on fishing reels, if you have a question on a fishing reel, if you leave that in the comments section, I'll try and answer that question for you. And to the extent that I can do that and help you along the way, well, that's kind of what this channel is about. This channel has been designed as a do-it-yourself channel, teaching you the art of reel repair and letting you learn a little bit about how fishing reels come together, and keeping them serviced and keeping them fishing. Well, if you remember when we took this off, the screw for that axle shaft is on the low side of the crosswind block. If you didn't remember, this is a good time to tell you, you should be taking pictures along the way. Now, I take pictures. I use a video recorder here, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't go back to my video from time to time when I had a question about the orientation of a piece or a part. Well, you don't need to take the video when you're doing yours, but by all means, use a still camera, use a cell phone, use whatever kind of picture taker you may have, just to give yourself that assurance that when you do it, go for reassembly, if you have a question, you have a place to go for the answer. All right, we're going to just put that tie-down screw in now. We'll put the handle on and we'll show you how it works, and then we'll just close this reel up and go service the drag stack in the main spool. I see that that's crying for a drop of oil, so I'll go ahead and put a drop of oil in the handle as well. And now we'll show you how that works. Look how smooth that is now. We're going to put that anti-reverse back on. And boy, if that's not a smooth running reel, and who said you need all those ball bearings? Let's close the case up and then we'll go service the spool, make sure that the drag washers are okay. Kind of interested to see what I find in the drag washers. There was two dominant types of drag washers in the day for a reel like this. One of them was a felt washer, which by all means needs a whole lot of service. You can't allow a felt washer to dry out. The other one was a plastic washer or a Teflon washer. And those things, well, they were self-lubricating, and you needed to do nothing with those other than make sure they're clean. So I'm not sure what we got in here. The third one, not usually found in reels like this, was a leather washer or a composite washer, maybe a cork. But those kind of were a little bit earlier on the spinning reels. It kind of went away because of the issues with those drying out. But if you're opening up an older Ocean City reel, for example, a spinner, you'll find the cork in there and some of the others. All right, that's the side plate coverage. Here's a neat little thing. A lot of people like to put their names on reels just in case they are out somewhere and the reel tends to walk on them, well, they can find it. And here's a fellow that edged his name right on the top of the button. So this was owned at one point in time by somebody named T, last name Lee. Interesting. To service your spool now, go ahead and get a small pick, get a small screwdriver like this one, and work it in behind that clip. That's a spring clip. Work it in behind there. I like to hold my finger on there because sometimes these things are going to shoot. And take that clip out. And I'm just going to put that on a bench for now, just because we're right near the end of this. I don't need to put it in my parts tray. I'm only working on this little stack here. Well, there you go. We've got felt washers in this. And as I mentioned, they require the service. You need to keep those lubricated so that they don't dry out and tear. Well, we've got one big felt washer. That one's probably almost 1/8 of an inch thick. What do you do with that? Well, you want to get your real oil and saturate the washer. And this one's so big, I'm going to run it on both sides. Just give it its best chance for success. All right, that's going to go back in. Got a little sloppy with the oil on top, but that's all right. We'll clean that up. Now we're going to take the clip, find the groove, and set one side of the clip in, and then just pull it around until it seats itself in the groove like that. That's perfectly set now. You notice that there's a little tag hanging out of that metal washer. There's a little indent on the screw right there. That tag needs to ride in that channel. We'll lock the spool. Now we'll take the star adjuster or the drag knob adjuster and tighten that down because this wasn't working the first time. Well, it is now. And once you do that, back it off. Why do you back it off? Well, you back it off because you do not want to press down and dry out or compress that washer that we just serviced there. All right, we'll just give it a final test here. Remember, we've oiled the seams of the bail. If you like, this is not a ball bearing, but it might be a line roller. You can put a drop of oil on there as well. Well, as we noted, boy, what a joy how easy this one is once it's serviced to go a whole lot smoother than when we started. And that's a real nice reel that deserves a second chance. So this is the Roddy 810, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing how it's serviced and repaired. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you're doing. To the firefighters out in California dealing with that wildfire right now, boy, thank you for your dedication to task. Kind of crazy. To everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.